and welcome back to Inside Number 23, my channel which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie, hi, and you can find me pretty much everywhere on social media as Miss Lavelli. I am most active on Instagram though, and as I said last week, I've been getting very into my Instagram stories recently, so do check those out if you follow me on Instagram. It's just a fun way to kind of update you on what I'm doing day to day. If you want to get in touch with me regarding anything to do with the podcast, so sponsorship or prize donations or any questions at all, please just give me an email. I cannot respond to any form of messaging on other platforms, so please, if you direct message me, don't anticipate a reply from that, but please drop me an email. My email address is katie@insidenumber23.com, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Number 23. It feels like quite a while since we've had a catch up, and that was because last week I had a little mini-sode as opposed to a full episode, so we weren't, you know, in this setup and everything, so it does feel a little bit odd. It feels like there's been a little bit of a hiatus, but thank you so much for coming back if you were a long time viewer, and hello and welcome to any new viewers and subscribers. It's really, really lovely to have you here, and thank you for coming to spend a little bit of crafty time with me today. The weather today is really quite glorious. We have gone out of our ridiculous heat spell that we were having in the UK, and our current temperature is around about the low to mid 20s, which is absolutely perfect as far as I'm concerned. If it gets any hotter, then I get a little bit miserable. So it's quite a nice sunny day outside with a little bit of a breeze, but I am coming to you as always from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, where I live with my lovely husband Emrys and our gorgeous pug baby Rolly. And yeah, I'm really excited to be catching up with you again this week. It's been a bit of an interesting week at Inside Number 23. There was a bit of a come down after the wedding. It was my my brother and my new sister-in-law's wedding last week, and I did quite a lot of prep for that. I made my dress, I made a wedding cake. They had a lot of people bring cakes as a part of the evening celebration, so I made a cake for that. So it felt like that kind of sucked up a lot of my knitting time. So this week I've just been kind of playing catch up, and I've really been indulging in the yarny crafts, which has been absolutely lovely. I haven't got any new sewing to share with you because after all of the work that I put in to the dress for the wedding, I just wanted to take a little break and focus on knitting. So it is knitting heavy this week, but I may or may not have some little sneaky sewing acquisitions to share with you later in the episode. So there is still a little bit of sewing themed content. The other very, very exciting thing that I've been able to do this week, which I kind of touched on a little bit last week, is that I now have a new computer to do all of my podcast editing on, and I am so happy that I have finally been able to do this. I am a bit of a techie person. I work in the technical industry, so forgive me if you are not that way inclined, but basically I was working on a 13-inch MacBook Air, which had 128GB capacity. I'm now working on a 27-inch 5K Retina iMac with a terabyte Fusion drive, and it has just changed my life in terms of being able to edit and upload efficiently, because currently previously rather, I was working on such a small capacity machine that in order to upload the amount of video that I was wanting to edit, I was having to save multiple things on an external hard drive and basically have an entirely empty computer in order to edit and upload each week. So the luxury of having so much more space, having a beautiful high definition display to edit on, it's just made this whole process so much more enjoyable. It's also given me the opportunity to learn some new bits and pieces to do with editing, so fingers crossed in the near future we'll be seeing some changes to do with the quality and the general production elements of this podcast, which I'm so excited about. I do get very excited about the techie bits and pieces, and yeah, it's just been an absolute joy. Before we get on to the creative content, I do have one other lovely little bit to share with you, and that is to talk about the Harry Potter knit along. I am hosting a Harry Potter knit along which is going throughout 2017, and this week it was actually the 20th birthday celebration of Harry Potter officially being released, which was really exciting. It was so nice to see so many people getting excited about Harry Potter and celebrating the birthday, and it just made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and I'm just so in love with Harry Potter. I really need to get out my audiobooks and listen to some Stephen Fry reading it. But yes, long story short, I do have a winner to announce this week for the Harry Potter Cal. I'm going to be drawing my June winner. I closed the thread this morning because it's July now, if you can believe that. I can't believe how quickly this year is flying by, but I have got a winner for you, and let me just grab the prize. So the prize for June is really lovely. I'm so excited to be able to give this away. First of all, we have this gorgeous sock blank, which was donated by Kate of Hand Dyed by Kate. This is the Luna colourway, and it's glorious. All of these beautiful pinky purplies and bits of black, and oh, just general gorgeousness. In addition to that, we also have the Hedwig Progress Keeper, which was donated by Sugar Tots. I have one of these and I love it, and this just made the perfect combination as far as I was concerned. So this is the prize that's up for grabs. The lucky winner, drawn by random number generator this morning, is post number 98, Nitty Moomin, who is Emma. So congratulations, Emma. Please get in touch with me via email and send me your contact information. And I really look forward to hearing from you so I can pop this in the post to you. Thank you so much to everybody who's still been getting involved in the Harry Potter Cal. This month alone, I had 259 entries for the June finished object thread. So thank you so much to everybody who's just been getting so involved and loving the Harry Potter knitting. And I have already opened the July finished object thread, so please feel free to start posting in there, and we will have another prize drawing at the end of this month. Enough of the administration, let's move on to some creative goodness, shall we? And as always, I'm starting off the episode with what am I wearing? It's going to be a quick one this week because once again, I'm wearing an outfit that you guys have seen multiple times, but for anyone who is new to the podcast or who just likes to be reminded the type of things that I wear from day to day, I am wearing an entirely me-made outfit this week. First of all, I have my gorgeous Robe Bleuet shirt hack. This is a pattern by Deer and Doe, which is currently discontinued, but it will be being relaunched soon. It is a dress, but I hacked it into a little blouse. It is in this Rifle Paper Company cotton and steel fabric that I picked up from Brooklyn General when I was in New York. And down below, I am wearing, as always, I wear this skirt so much, my Hollyburn skirt, which is a Sewaholic pattern. It's denim. I desperately need to make more of these skirts because I live in them at work. I really do. And it's just a lovely skirt to wear, and I love it. And yeah, that is what I'm wearing this week. Now, as I hinted at the beginning of the episode, I have actually been doing a lot of knitting over the past week. It's been lovely getting back into some yarny creativity, just because all of my focus over the past couple of weeks has been on getting my dress ready for Richard's wedding. And I, very excitingly, actually have a finished object to share with you this week. It's not a garment or anything exciting like that, but I am really happy to have this finished, and I love it so much. I love them so much because I finished my socks. I'm so happy to have these finished. Aren't they just the most beautiful thing? This yarn is by Nomaic yarns. This is the first ever Nomaic yarns that I have used, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it, and I want all of the Nomaic yarns in the world, and I'm probably going to be asking for a lot for my birthday this year. But basically this is a beautiful self-striping yarn. This is the Molly Weasley colourway. So this is another one for my ongoing challenge of Harry Potter knit-alongs, for my own knit-along. One for the box of socks as well, although I really don't think I'm going to get 12 pairs of socks done this year because I am very, very badly behind in terms of doing that. But these are now finished. I love them so much. So let me tell you a little bit about exactly what I did with these. These are the first pair of socks that I've ever knitted on a pair. Oh, and there are two of them. In case you can't see, there's one behind the other. They're the first pair of socks that I ever knit on 9-inch circular needles. I used higher sharps 2.25mm needles that my lovely husband purchased for me in New York. And I cast on 60 stitches, knit an entire tube in the round. I did 20 rounds of a 2x2 rib for these and just did a regular kind of decreased toe, nothing special there, kitchen at the toes. I then did true afterthought heels in these socks. So this is the second pair of socks that I have done true afterthought heels, basically cutting into my socks rather than putting waste yarn in them. I'm in love with afterthought heels. I think that they are amazing, and I'm very excited to do that from now onwards pretty much with all of my self-striping socks. It just makes things so much simpler when you're knitting self-striping to not interfere with the stripe and be able to really pick and choose where you place your heel, which is lovely. Couple of things about these socks. 9-inch circulars. I don't think I'm going to be using them again anytime soon, and that is for a couple of reasons. When I first started using them, I was experiencing quite a lot of hand pain, and most of that was because I'm used to kind of placing my needles through my fingers, and so I keep my hands quite open when I knit, pretty much kind of knit with my needles flowing through my fingers, so my hands are very open, which I prefer. When knitting with the 9-inch circulars, my hands kind of do this. So as opposed to kind of being quite open, they're very curved over. And that difference was really interfering with both my ability to knit quickly and also not experiencing pain when I was knitting, but some discomfort. Once I kind of got over the difference of having to knit kind of like this, that didn't bother me so much. But one thing that I really did notice, and this is going to sound really weird, I was noticing that I was getting quite a lot of clamminess between my fourth finger, between basically my little finger and my ring finger on both hands. And that was because usually I almost use my entire hand to knit. I don't ever just kind of knit with just these fingers. Doing that with the circulars, basically these fingers were just kind of flowing free. And I was getting kind of almost sweaty fingers, which sounds really disgusting, so I apologise, but it was just a very unpleasant feeling while I was knitting. They did end up being very efficient. I finished the second sock of these in half the time that it took me to finish the first. But for me, I really think that 2 at a time socks are going to be my preference. They just fly off the needles so much faster, and I just enjoy the process of them more. It's not to say that I found the entire process of using the 9-inch circulars horrible, because I could definitely use them again. It's just not my preference. I do prefer going magic loop 2 at a time, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I enjoyed doing it for one little project, but I can't see myself reaching for those needles right now if I wanted to cast on another pair of socks, put it that way. The other thing that I noticed is that my gauge really did tighten somewhat with the 9-inch circulars, and that's probably because again, the hand movement that I was using to knit was a lot smaller, a lot more enclosed, therefore there was more tension on my yarn. It hasn't made a huge difference to these socks, but I wish that I had cast on a few more stitches, just because I am worried that they're a little bit tight around here. So that is a little bit disappointing, particularly considering how much I love this yarn and I want to wear these socks all the time. But it's always good to try something different, to try something new. And to be honest, with the yarn that I purchased for these, because it was a gobstopper ball of yarn, in order for me to do 2 at a time socks, I would have had to do so much yarn management that it probably wouldn't have been that enjoyable to get the setup right anyway. So it worked with these, and I just love them. Aren't they perfect? Oh, Nomadic yarns, be still my beating heart. But yes, I love them. I love how well matched they are as well. They're very, very well matched. This isn't awkward at all. And yeah, it's really lovely to have a finished object. I do currently still have 2 other pairs of socks that are work in progresses, which I will be hopefully picking up within the next couple of days. So you never know, I may have some more finished socks soon. But yeah, love Nomadic yarns. Really, really love true afterthought heels and cutting into my knitting. It makes me feel crazy. It makes me feel quite rock and roll. And yeah, just super, super happy. Love these, love that they're Harry Potter themed. They make me happy, and hurrah, hurrah for a pair of socks. In terms of other works in progress that I've been working on this week, one of them is a little bit odd, considering that I've been going on and on and on about how warm everything has been over the past couple of weeks, because believe it or not, in the heat of summer, as we've been getting here in the UK, with temperatures of, you know, 30 degrees and blazing sun and no breeze, I decided it was the good time to work on my Cozy Memories blanket. And this thing is huge. I mean, you can see how many layers of it there are now. It's huge. I have added quite a few squares onto this over the past couple of weeks or so. I can't remember exactly which ones they are. I know I added this one. This was sent to me by lovely Kemper of Junk Yarn and the Junk Yarn podcast. This is one of her hand-dyed yarns. It didn't come with a name, but I absolutely love it. It's kind of like candy canes with all of these pretty multicolored speckles. It's gorgeous. I also added this one. This was sent to me in a swap. Again, I'm not entirely sure what yarn it is, but it's gorgeous. I finally added in the gingerbread house yarn, the Jinx yarn that Kristin of Voolenvine yarn sent me as a mini ages ago, and I love it. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I am so excited about casting on a pair of socks in this colourway when it comes to Christmas time. I'll probably cast them on in November, I think, so that they'll be finished for Christmas. But I love that square. It's just scrumptious and gorgeous. I've also added in 2 squares from my recently completed pairs of socks. So this is from Emrys's Doctor Who theme socks. This is the Allons-y colourway, and just next to it here I have already added in a Molly Weasley square. How adorable is that? But yeah, this thing is really pretty massive now. I'll just kind of, oh look, it's huge. It's going on and on and on and on. And I love it. I love how kind of all over the place it is. I love that it has a lot of kind of autumnal tones in it, as is my kind of preference with yarns. I do gravitate towards the autumn tones, but it also has kind of neon pink in here, and I've got a neon orange going on, a kind of peachy orange. I love that it's all over the place. It makes me really, really happy. And this is definitely going to be going in my study when it's done. It's going to go in the sofa in the study / inside number 23 HQ, as I'm kind of referring to it in my head, once the decorations are complete. So I think that's probably why I've been reaching for this. It is amazing TV knitting in the evenings. I tend to keep this folded up on the armrest of our sofa, and I have a little basket of minis that sit next to it, all kind of tucked neatly away. And as we watch TV, I'll kind of pop out a mini and just cast it on, and just knitting one of these squares or 2 of these squares is really perfect if you're just watching an episode of something that's like half an hour, an hour long. So yeah, it's getting a lot of love. I would love to see it finished soon, because I really just want to be able to use it for what it is. But to be honest, I will need another blanket on the needles. Maybe it will be my crochet stripe blanket, which is still a tapeworm. There's nothing more to it than that at the moment, but I just love being able to add minis into a big project like this and just grow it bit by bit. It's full of so many memories from when I started this podcast and people sending me yarns and yarns from different projects, and I love it so much. I really, really do. And oh, I just want to snuggle in it even though it's warm. So yeah, that's been bringing me loads of joy, and it's just hilarious that it has re-emerged in the kind of heat of summer rather than winter, because that makes sense, doesn't it? Before we go on to my next and final work in progress, I did just want to quickly talk about my ebony cardigan. I haven't picked up the ebony cardigan this week, so I don't have anything physical to share with you, but I did want to quickly say thank you to everybody who commented when I was talking about the pattern. So the pattern for the ebony cardigan is by Helga Isager. And I mentioned how I was finding it a little bit difficult to kind of navigate, how I was a little worried that something had got lost in translation. And what a lot of you have fed back to me after that episode is actually that Scandinavian patterns tend to be written in this way. This is traditional of that particular style of pattern, which I wasn't actually aware of because I do not know everything about knitting and knitting patterns. But it's actually been a real relief to me to realise that that is just the way that the pattern is written, because I thought I was kind of doing something wrong and I didn't really know how to go about working with that pattern. But to be aware that it's just kind of a tradition for that particular style of pattern has been really helpful. I have started writing out for myself exactly what I need to do for the second half of the front of the cardigan. And if all goes well, I will hopefully be working on that. If not this week, next week, I do have my next project, which is kind of taking preference above all others at the moment. But yeah, thank you to everybody who kind of explained why the pattern was like that. I really, really appreciated it. And hopefully I'll have a little bit more work on the ebony cardigan to share with you soon. So yes, my final work in progress in terms of what's on my needles this week is really exciting. For those of you who tuned into my mini-sode last week, at the very end of the episode, I shared with you 3 beautiful skeins of yarn that were sent to me by beautiful, gorgeous, incredible Kristin of Voolenvine Yarns and the Yarngasm podcast. Kristin has recently been sharing on her Instagram and on her podcast her beautiful new shawl design, the Oracle shawl, which is a pie shawl. It's gorgeous, it's brioche, it's lace, it's stunning. And she very, very kindly asked me to be a test knitter, and I have some work to share with you and I'm really, really excited. I shared with you the colourways that I used, that I had selected last week. And since then I have actually cast the shawl on and I've put really quite a big dent into it. So first of all, let me share with you again the colourways that I am using. It's written as a 3-colour shawl, but you can kind of do it in whatever way you want. If you want to use up little scraps of yarn, or you want to have it maybe only 2 colours. I think, to be honest, it would look stunning as a 1-colour shawl because the texture of it is so beautiful, but I am doing it 3 colours as written. So my first colour, and these are all Voolenvine yarns, these are all dyed by Kristin, is Fairie Hair. And here it is, all caked up. It's gorgeous. These are all on her Nouveau base, which is a singles yarn, singles merino. This is Fairie Hair. My colour B, getting it out of my project bag here, is Grimm. And this is Kristin's kind of variegated black grey. It is coming up more grey in the pattern, I think, when it's knitted up. I think when it's blocked it'll probably look more black, but Grimm. And the final colourway that I picked is Enjoy the Silence, which is kind of natural but with these little pops of colour, little greens and purples and pinks and mauves. And I want to start off by saying, yes, this cake of yarn looks considerably less neat than say these other cakes of yarn, and that is because I've never knit a project with singles before. This is my first project using it. I have played around with some minis of singles before and I really enjoyed them, so I decided to knit this shawl with singles. My God, was it hard to cake up. Now I think that partly that is because my ball winder is not the best. It was inexpensive, shall we say, and I really do think I should invest in something a little bit more fancy, something that probably gets the job done a little bit better. But for some reason, in particular this cake, Enjoy the Silence, it just wouldn't cake up. It was constantly wrapping around the bottom of the ball winder rather than actually going into the cake. It was slipping off the winder, it was getting caught in the swift. This is nothing to do with Kristin's yarn, by the way, in terms of how it's caked up and how it's presented, because it was coming off the skein beautifully. It's just for some reason I could not get this to cake properly. So with this one in particular, I had to cake almost the entire thing by hand, which is not something I've had to do for a while, so that took some time, but goodness, it's slippery and it didn't want to stay in the cake. So my cakes are a little bit all over the place, which is a little bit sad. I prefer it when they're all pretty, but the project itself is so beautiful that I forget that I kind of hashed up the caking of the yarn. I do want to show you what project bag I'm using for this, because it's so appropriate for this shawl and for something that Kristin has designed in general. It's my Yarn Seller Studios Ghastlies bag. I knew that it had to live in this bag because Kristin is all about kind of being a bit goth, and so I had to use the Ghastlies project bag. And to be honest, this shawl is very gothy, which I love, and I don't call it my Oracle shawl, I call it my Kristin shawl, because as far as I'm concerned it's just channeling my inner Kristin. But let me show you how much work that I've done. This has been pretty much the entire focus of my knitting time over the past week, and this is how much I've done. So it's a little difficult to show it to you because it's all squidged up on my knitting needle. It's going to be a lot bigger than this when it's all stretched out. You can just see the movement in it. But basically I have done, I believe that this is maybe the 6th ring. It's all divided up into rings in terms of the pattern, but after this I have a lace section in Fairy Hair, so in my kind of pinky mauvey colour. I then have another brioche section, a lace section in Enjoy the Silence, and then I bind off. So I've done quite a bit of this already, although I am still on a relatively small amount of stitches. The more you go, the more stitches you get, obviously, because it's a pie shawl. But can we talk about this brioche? Oh, look at it. It's amazing. And the lace is beautiful. And there's more brioche at the bottom. My camera focus is all over the place today. But yes, brioche, lace, and then brioche right in the centre. I am in love with this shawl. Brioche is really, I haven't done a huge amount of brioche in my kind of past knitting. I did do the exploration station for Eric of Sticks Plus Twine when he did the exploration station Cal. I miss you, Eric, sending you love. But that was the last time that I actually did brioche, and that was a while ago, and I kind of lost the feel for it. When I was reading the pattern at first I thought, oh no, what have I let myself in for, because I've completely forgotten how to brioche. But doing this has just reminded me how much I love it, and I seem to be seeing a lot of brioche around. I know Kristin is really into it at the moment, which is why she's put it into her pattern, but I was watching the lovely Legacy Knits podcast with Sue and Chelsea the other day, and Chelsea's been getting into brioche, and so Sue started brioching again, and I just love it. It is so addictive, and when you understand what you need to do in order to kind of get the stitches looking as they are, I just think it's glorious. And the lovely thing about this shawl is that it has so much variety, so moving from one section to the next has been just so much fun. I mean, at the moment this does look like a bit like a giant hairnet, which it isn't. Once it's blocked can you imagine how amazing this is going to be when all of this opens up? And it's going to be ginormous. And I love it. And working with the singles, it's different just because the texture of the yarn is so different from what I'm used to using. But it's a real joy, and it just kind of swishes really nicely around on the circular needle, and it makes me so happy. Plus these colorways are just bringing me so much joy. This really is sort of a more muted version of the colorways that Kristin was using in hers. She also used Grimm, but here she used Coven, which is a deeper purple, and then she used her Paranormal colorway, which has some neon in it. So mine's kind of a more dusky version, but I still feel like it's incredibly appropriate for a Kristin shawl, and I love it. I'm obsessed with brioche. I'm already looking up other brioche projects to cast on after this is finished because it's so squishy. I believe it will be going live on August 1st, but if that changes at all, I will of course let you know. And in the meantime, try and get your hands on some of Kristin's yarn so that you can use it to do her shawl. I think she's actually been putting together some kits for this shawl as well. So if you can get your hands on one of her kits, I would really, 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 really recommend it, because I love her shawl, love her yarn, love her. She's amazing. And yeah, I'm really excited to have this as a finished object. First pie shawl, first use of singles. It's gorgeous. Happy. Before we move on to some sewing-based stash enhancements, I wanted to answer a couple of Dear Katie questions. My Dear Katie segment is where I answer questions that have been sent through to me via email. If you want to get in touch with a Dear Katie question, please just email me at katie@insidenumber23.com with the subject title Dear Katie, and I will either answer you via email or actually on the podcast. And I have two questions that I wanted to talk about this week. The first one was sent to me, let me just find your name here, was sent to me by Cassie. It's either Cassie or Casey, so I'm sorry, I'm going to say Cassie for now. But Cassie sent me an email regarding customs charges on yarn, which is something that I have talked about on the podcast before. So Cassie's email said some lovely things, so thank you very, very much. You said, my question to you is this: between some of your stash enhancements and other podcasts I've watched, my grabby little hands are itching for yarns from a few US indie dyers. Kristin of Voolenvine is one of them, and for that I cannot blame you at all. When you do order yarn from the US, how bothersome are the customs charges? Do they add a lot to the cost of the yarn? I tried to look it up, but I never managed to find the info. If you have some ballpark figure to share, that would be great. Also, do a lot of packages get stopped at customs, or is it a lottery? Do they stay there long? Thanks a lot, and keep up the lovely podcast. Thank you so much for your question, Cassie. I want to start off by saying I am not the be-all and end-all on these type of things. I have my own information that I've gathered from personal experience, but this may not be kind of written in stone regarding these type of things. I did have a quick look up on the UK gov.co.uk regarding kind of shipping from the US, and I have a couple of figures and bits of information that you might find useful. It's never a specific charge that can be the same for anything. It's literally always based on what is being sent to you and how it's being sent to you. Basically, you do get charged VAT on anything that has not come from an EU country. And bear in mind, considering that we're currently going through Brexit, all of this is most likely going to change in the near future once all of the negotiations have finished. So this is very much what's happening right here, right now, on the 2nd of July 2017, but it will probably change. You'll be charged VAT on anything that's sent to you that is labelled as a gift that is more than £39, so more than the value of £39 if it's labelled as a gift, and any other item that is sent to you, so if it's a service or it's purchased or it's been sent for you for business matters over the cost of £15. So if we're talking about yarn purchase, if it's worth more than £15, which a lot of skeins of yarn are, then you will be charged VAT on that item when it comes into the UK. Basically, your VAT is calculated by the total cost of the item. So that is to do with the item cost, the postage cost, if you are kind of having any additional duty fees on it. All of that cost, the total, will then have VAT, which is obviously 20% in the UK. So an additional 20% on top. In addition to that, you may also get charged handling fees by the post office. And to be perfectly honest, this is the thing that usually irritates me more than anything else, because VAT a lot of the time isn't huge, because 20% on top of what you've already paid is usually relatively minimal. But with handling fees, particularly in the UK, I've had handling fees of £10, £20, and that really doesn't seem to have any bearing on what the parcel is. It can be huge amounts or small amounts, and it doesn't really seem to have a rhyme or reason. So it's the handling fees that have usually bit me in the bum when I've ordered things from the US. In terms of whether or not this happens with all parcels, in the past, people used to be a lot more flexible and lenient about things coming in from the US. I know I've ordered things from the States for a long time. And I didn't used to get huge amounts of customs fees on parcels. However, within the last couple of years, pretty much every parcel that has been sent to me from the States has incurred VAT charges and handling fees on it. So I would say if you do buy from the US and you're in the UK, the likelihood is that you will probably get charged something. I've never had a problem with things being hung onto by customs for an inordinate amount of time before they've got to me. It's possible that that may have happened and I just haven't noticed, because I assume that things from the US take a very long time to get to me. Sometimes they take longer than others, so it's possible at that time they may have been searched when they were sent into the country. But when they actually get to my post office, I usually get a little slip through the post box saying, oh, you need to pay this amount of money, go and pick it up from the post office, and they will usually hold the parcel for 3 weeks and then send it back if you don't want to pay for it. I think we should move on from postage fees and such, because it's quite a specific question that's not necessarily relevant to a lot of people. I don't even know if this is something that happens on the opposite way. So if I were to send something to the US, do you get bitten in the same way, guys? I'd be really interested to know. Leave your comments down below if you have more information about that. I obviously only have information from the UK perspective. So I hope that that has answered your question, Cassie, and thank you so much for sending me an email. The other Dear Katie question that I'm going to be answering this week was sent to me by Michaela. And Michaela, you asked, I am planning a trip to London later in the year and I'm considering getting a tattoo whilst there. Yes, I love tattoos. As you'll know, I'm a big tattoo collector and a big tattoo fan. I was wondering if you knew any good tattoo parlours there. Kind regards, Michaela. So again, Michaela, I'm going to kind of preface this with, this is entirely my opinion. When it comes to what you do with your body in terms of how you get tattooed, where you get tattooed, it's entirely up to you. But because you have asked for my opinion on the matter, I'm going to give you that, if that is all right with you. Personally, I would steer very much away from picking a good tattoo parlour in order to get a tattoo. The reason that I say that is, an amazing tattoo parlour is not the same as an amazing tattoo artist. Now, if you go to a very high-end tattoo parlour, the chances are that the artists there will be very talented and be able to do pretty much anything that you want. But the way that I have always sought out tattoo artists is by finding the artist with the style that works for me and then going to visit them wherever they are. So even though I lived and worked in London for a long time, I have only ever actually been tattooed in London once, and that was for my thigh piece. I got that done in 2014 by an artist called Cassandra Francis at a tattoo parlour called Black Garden Tattoo. And I really enjoyed being there and it was great. But to be honest, the experience was positive because of the artist that I went to as opposed to the tattoo parlour that I went to. So I would say if you are considering getting tattooed, I would really recommend researching artists in and around London and finding an artist that really gels with your personal style and what you want, and seeing whether or not they will be available at the time that you are coming to London. A lot of artists, particularly based in big cities, so I've experienced it in London, I also experienced it when I was in New York, they will book up very quickly. Well-known artists and talented artists do tend to be in demand. So again, they may have waiting lists and they may not be available for walk-ins and that type of thing. So I would recommend planning this in advance if you are going to take a trip to London. All of that being said, There are a couple of tattoo parlours that I have been to, that friends have been to, that I know they've had very, very positive experiences in. A couple of those are Black Garden Tattoo, which is where I got my thigh piece done. Friends of mine have also had tattoos done at Jolly Rouge, King's Cross Tattoo, Family Business Tattoo. These are all very well-known high-end tattoo parlours in London. These aren't the only tattoo parlours in London. If you know others that you have been to and that you've enjoyed, then please do feel free to share them in the comments down below. I'm sure that Michaela would appreciate that. But my advice really is even if you look up these tattoo parlours, be specific in terms of who you are going to get tattooed by. Because when it comes down to it, I feel like the most important thing is that you have a good relationship with the artist and you understand exactly each other's style and each other's preferences. And for me, that's always been how I have pursued having tattoos done myself. Again, there are other opinions. You can just rock up to a tattoo parlour and get an amazing tattoo by someone that you've never seen their work before. But like I said, you asked for my opinion and that's how I would go about doing it. Okay. So I have been a bit naughty this week, and naughty is kind of a relative term in this because I made some purchases, and no, they're not yarny purchases, they are sewing based purchases, so I felt that I could buy these as a little treat for myself. After working on my dress for my brother's wedding, which I promise I will stop talking about eventually, I thought it would be a good idea to look up some other patterns by Gretchen Hirsch in collaboration with Butterick. So the pattern that I used for my dress was this one. It is B6413 and it is a Butterick pattern, patterns by Gertie and Gretchen Hirsch, whom I love, who is of Gertie's blog For Better Sewing and is just an incredible sewist, and I love her, has done a lot of patterns with Butterick in the past. And so I thought, why not browse through the Butterick website and see if there are any other patterns that I might consider making in the near future. Little did I know, the Butterick website was having a sale, a considerable sale, basically offering up these patterns for around about between $3 to $4 each. And I may have gone a little bit nuts because even with the postage that I had to pay in order to ship them to the UK, I paid half what I would have paid if I were trying to purchase these patterns in the UK. So with that in mind, I did go a little bit nuts, and I picked up some things that, some of them that I've wanted for a while, some of them are slightly newer, so let's go through my little stash enhancements. I love having new patterns, it makes me so happy. I'm so excited to work on some of these. But yes, let's go through. So the first one that I popped into my basket was one that I've been wanting for a long time. It's B6390 and it's actually a jacket pattern. If you can see here, it's this lovely little denim jacket. It's really cute, it's quite rockabilly, and I really, really, really love this jacket. I think it would look cute with enamel pins on it, with maybe patches on the back. The one thing that I am lacking in my me-made wardrobe is kind of outerwear. I am still working on a duffel coat that is sitting in the corner of my sewing room over there, and I really, really need to crack on and get that finished before autumn. I really, really do want to have that ready for autumn this year, but that's a full-on coat. This is a little lightweight jacket, and I just think it would be a really, really nice thing to have as a part of my wardrobe. Plus it fits in very, very well with my kind of more vintage aesthetic. If wearing my lovely dress, my B6413 dress at the wedding taught me anything, it's that I miss having a real retro flair to the majority of my clothes. The more that I work with kind of modern patterns and indie patterns, it's kind of taking me away from that aesthetic a little bit, and why not mix it up? Why not have a mixture of all these things? So that was the first one. I then picked up two patterns that I have been toying with the idea of using them for a while, but they're a little bit more kitschy, but I do think I could make these work. So for those of you who have followed Gertie on her blog and via Instagram for a while, you'll know that she went through a phase of kind of liking traditional European kind of style clothing. I'm not going to pronounce this right. I think they're called dirndls. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I should have looked up the pronunciation of this word. But she brought out a variety of patterns with Butterick that kind of reflected that style. And I picked up 2 different versions of these kind of dresses. The first one I kind of see as a really, really spring summery dress. This is B6322. And it has this really, really cute detailing around it. Basically, it's fully ruffled along the bust, but then it has this kind of corseted overlay. If you can see that. It's a little easier to see in the illustration, the fact that you have the gathered fabric here and then this flat corseted panel, and then it's like a gathered skirt at the bottom. Now, I am not going to lie, I most probably would not make this with the corseted portion around it. I think it does look a little bit costumey for me, but the actual dress itself without that covering looks really, really cute. It basically is fully kind of gathered around the bust, but then it has a flat portion around the midriff and then the gathered skirt, and I think that would make a really, really pretty spring summer dress. So yeah, I think I could probably hack this pattern about a little bit to enable it to not have the front overlay, just omit the front overlay basically, and then it would just look really, really cute. I love it in the floral print. I just think that would look lovely. So that's another one. The other one is again quite costumey. It has these little puff sleeves. It has a beautiful square neckline. I love a square neckline on a dress. It has quite a full skirt that also has a ruffle along the bottom, which again is slightly easier to see in the illustrated version. This does again look slightly costumey. By the way, this is B6352. And it also has, interestingly enough, a zip down the front. The thing that put me off about this dress for quite a long time was, number one, the ruffle around the bottom. I wasn't sure if I could pull that look off. Number two, the zip down the front. I can't see myself getting behind a central zip in a dress. However, I really like the neckline. I really like the sleeves. I'm a fan of a puff sleeve, as you can see. It really kind of appeals to my personal aesthetic. And I do love the kind of full skirted dress. I think a dress like this would be lovely in the autumn with like a little maybe cardigan over the top with some tights and boots, or kind of late summer when it's starting to cool down a little bit and it's just nice and swishy. Depending on the fabric that you use, this could be really great for either spring, summer or autumn, winter. I think it could work all year round. I do think I'll need to play around with it a little bit in order to make it work for my style. But I just think it's really fun and interesting, and it was incredibly inexpensive, so I thought, why not pick it up and have a little play around. The next 2 patterns that I picked up, I've been wanting for a little while. One of them is very much a bombshell kind of dress. It's got halter neck, it's sweetheart neckline. It's B6019. And it's really, really cute. It's fully boned. It has bra cups in it. It has shearing up the back. It's very much your traditional kind of 1950s Marilyn Monroe style dress. And I do have some patterns for similar dresses of this already, because I have all of Gertie's books, and a couple of the patterns in there are quite reminiscent of this. But I just thought it was very, very cute. And again, super inexpensive, and why not add it to the collection? I don't think I'll be making this anytime soon, but the next time that I need a dress for a particular event, I could definitely see myself running up one of these, or the next time I'm going on holiday somewhere hot. I think it would be really cute as well if you combined this bodice with some shorts for like a kind of play suit look. That would be really cute as well, but yes, added that one in. Along a similar vein, this has been making the rounds on Instagram quite a lot recently because Gertie did a sew along for it. It's B6453, and it's this beautiful, simple summer dress. It comes with two variations, the wiggle dress and the full skirted version, but the bodice is so simple. It has just these really nice spaghetti straps. It's very kind of casual, even though it is quite dressy, and I love that. I love how effortless it looks. I just think it's beautiful. And yeah, she did a whole sew along for this on her blog, so if you want to sew it, there's, you know, how-tos on there. And I just think it's really cute. I'm not sure if I'll make one of these for summer this year, but I could see myself living in this full skirted version if I'm out and about in hot weather. So yeah. The last pattern is the one that I'm really the most excited about. And this is a recent release of Gertie's with Butterick. The pattern is B6484. And let me just read you the description of it. It's a close-fitting lined dress with a dropped waist. It has two different sleeve variations, and it also has its own inbuilt petticoat ruffle. And all of those things just sound marvellous, don't they? And this is the pattern. So you can see here it has the dropped waist detail with the gathering skirt coming down. She's used it with one of her border prints. So the small border is around the edge of the top here, and also around the large border is around the bottom on the skirt. But I am really in love with this 3/4 length sleeve version. Would this not just be such a pretty dress to have for autumn winter? And you know I'm an autumn winter girl, so this really appealed to me. Plus, when Gertie shared this pattern on Instagram, the first kind of shots of it, she did hint that it would be really, really good for directional prints. And I thought one of these in a tartan or a plaid fabric for autumn would be amazing. So depending on what fabric I can find available, I am seriously considering making one of these as my birthday outfit for this year in a really nice tartan fabric, because it's a big birthday this year, you guys. It's the big 30, and I feel like I need something fancy. So watch this space, but I just love everything about this dress. I think it's gorgeous, and I really want to make one soon. So yeah, a little bit nuts with a lot of patterns, but I love all of them. And I can't wait to get my sewing mojo going again. I've taken a little break, like I said, over the last week, but I do have a couple of days coming this week where I'm going to get some fabric cut out, get some projects done. Going to be working on my dress for the outfit along. I haven't forgotten about it, it's still coming, but I'm just really, really excited about it. And I just love it. I love being able to make my own clothes, and I just feel very inspired right now. It's a good feeling. So that's everything for the creative content this week. But without further ado, let's move on to my final segment, which is, as always, General Waffle. General Waffle. And for this week's Waffle, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different that some of you may be aware of from looking at my Instagram over the last couple of days. And that subject is kind of about becoming a vegetarian. This can be a touchy subject for a lot of people because it deals with people's moral base, what people believe in, and that type of thing. But I feel like I've been putting a lot of mini disclaimers into this episode because I'm worried about people being offended, but I'm not going to put a disclaimer on this because this is entirely my opinion. This is where I am right now, and if you disagree, that is absolutely fine. You do you. This is just a little kind of look into how I have been feeling recently. So yeah, I made a decision pretty much yesterday. This is day 2, so maybe this is premature having this conversation now, but I feel okay doing it because this has been brewing for quite a long time. I've been considering trying to go vegetarian for a little while. I am a huge, huge, huge animal lover. You would know that if you see the way that I interact with my dog. I adore him. He is my entire world. I love him so much. I've always had a lot of pets. I've always had a huge affinity with animals. I had considered working with animals for a really, really long time. That didn't end up happening, but I love animals. I sometimes say that I actually get on with animals a little bit better than I do with people sometimes. I feel that they understand me a little bit better, which I know sounds a little bit weird, but that's just where I'm coming from. But my entire life I have been a meat eater. It's not something that I was necessarily aware of as being a big deal when I was young. I just ate everything. And as I got older and started to make more conscious decisions in terms of what I was buying to eat, I would always try my hardest to make sure that on a shop I was going for organic food. I don't eat eggs from battery chickens. I only eat them from free range, or the most expensive kind of high-end eggs that you know come from chickens that are happy. Or at least they tell you that they're happy, so I really hope they are. I had never seen meat eating as being a problem in terms of how I felt morally about animals. But something that had given me pause more recently is I have started listening to a podcast which the murderinos amongst you may have heard of as well, because it's often advertised on My Favourite Murder, which is one of my favourite podcasts, and that is the Natch Butte podcast. Now, the thing that I would say, Jackie, who is the host of this podcast, is definitely an acquired taste. So if you go and listen to it, she's interesting, she's very loud, she's very brash. She does have an explicit rating, so if you're not a fan of strong language, you may want to avoid her podcast. But long story short, she has a makeup audio podcast where she talks about different makeup products that she loves. She also has guests on the show who share their makeup and beauty products. But the one thing that she always talks about is cruelty-free products, about makeups and beauty products and skincare products that do not test on animals. And recently I have been going through all of my beauty products and reassessing where I spend my money. I think something that is purely used for cosmetic reasons that isn't going to be benefiting anybody's health or anything like that, there's really no reason to test that product on an animal. That's just how I feel. But now that I've become aware of that, and I mean, it's always something I've been aware of, let's be honest, but now that I am more educated around the subject, it's something that I can no longer ignore. We vote with our wallets. So I can make the conscious decision of where I spend money in terms of beauty products. And so I'm trying to go, at the very least, cruelty-free, and if not vegan for beauty products, just because that's making me feel better about what I'm putting on my face, what I'm putting on my body, and it's important. I do think it's important to me. Flash forward a little bit, we watched a movie this week that's just been released on Netflix called Okja. If you have seen it, you'll automatically know why this change has come in me in terms of my eating. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. It is an incredible piece of cinema, regardless of whether or not it changes your views on whether or not you want to eat meat. But it really shone a light for me on how we treat animals in terms of food production, and the way that companies will use falsehoods in their advertising and the way that they talk about things, manipulation of language and that type of thing, into making you think that what you're purchasing is humanely raised, is treated well, is slaughtered kindly, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. In terms of how I feel about animals and how I want to kind of have my relationship with animals to be, I don't feel comfortable eating meat right now. That's kind of as basically as I can put it. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who, when I shared this news on Instagram yesterday, I had such a huge outpouring of support and love from people who've been on similar journeys themselves, and it's worked for them, and that's just amazing. It makes me feel like I can do this and that I have a support system out there to help me through this adjustment, because it will be an adjustment, because I have eaten meat every day pretty much my entire life. You can't just eat something because it tastes good and ignore everything else that comes with that. That's how I'm feeling right now in this moment. And believe me, this is not me judging anybody else who eats meat, who doesn't eat meat, who's vegan, who's vegetarian, who's pescatarian, who's anything. You need to do what's right for you. And like I said, I've eaten meat my whole life. I can't judge. This is just my personal experience and how I feel. So far, since I made the decision, all I have felt about it is positive. And I still have a lot of options open to me in terms of the food that is available to me to eat. I don't feel restricted. We had a really, really lovely vegetarian meal last night and I felt so full and happy and satisfied, and yeah, it just feels really, really great and I'm excited about it. So we'll see how I get on. I may or may not share more about this on the podcast later. Like I said, I know it can be a touchy subject for people because I don't want people to think that I'm being super moralistic and judgy and telling you how you should live your life in comparison to how I lead mine and that type of thing. But if some of you would find it interesting, maybe I'll release an additional video about the next month, because my goal is to stay at the least pescatarian, if not fully vegetarian, for as much as I can over the next month. So yeah, that's basically where I am right now. And the reason that I wanted to share this on the podcast is that I want to be accountable for my behaviour. And one of the things that I think is important when you're setting yourself a goal that you are really committed to, but you realise is going to be probably a little bit of a struggle for you, is putting it out into the world and saying, this is what I'm doing. If you are yourself a vegetarian, if you are vegan, if you are pescatarian, and you have any good blogs that you go to for recipes, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know about those. And yeah, if you've been on a similar journey yourself, I'd really appreciate any advice that you have, because I am nervous. This is quite a big deal for me and I want to be as successful as I possibly can be. So yay! So that's everything for this week, you guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below to be kept up to date as to when I have new videos on this channel. I hope you've all had a really, really great week. I hope you're enjoying the lovely weather, getting loads of crafting done, and generally just living your best lives possible. I'm sending you all so much love, and I will check in again with you next week. But for now, happy sewing, happy knitting, and I'll see you soon. Bye! Oh, that's my mum. She's calling me. Hello? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Bye. Aw, my mum's supporting me being a vegetarian.